Okay, I'm going to try and recreate a video I did a couple of days ago in response to Sam Meets AI, and he was exploring uh, trying to capture different personas using Suno AI. And I left a comment on this video, and basically the gist of what was going on is, can you get Suno, from my understanding, what he was trying to accomplish and what I've been trying to accomplish, and the video that I had created in response to this almost immediately when it was published. Of course, my audio settings were goofed up, and it was muted performance on every aspect of it. So this is why I'm going to try and recreate it. I wound up doing some experiments, and the thing that I commented to Sam was he was trying to get a particular singer's voice to show up that could be replicated. And I also have been trying to isolate particular kinds of voices that I would like to apply to my music when I've been regenerating it, my original compositions, music-wise and things like that, that I've brought in and then do covers. And it would be really cool if I could say, well, I want this particular kind of voice. Even like trying to direct Suno to, let's say, use a tenor, an alto, soprano, bass, baritone. All these things are real tricky, and I haven't found a suitable way to get to that granularity, and I really wish that I could. So, of course, they have the personas, and the personas that they allow you to do, what I have come to understand through listening is that Suno gives you a male voice and a female voice. I'll separate it at least at that level. And they create an illusion, although I still hold out hope that there is maybe a couple different versions of this, that the single male or female voice winds up getting filtered in a particular way that there's a character difference, whether it's timbre or, I forget the exact name of the like if you use a vocoder or something like that, there's a specific way that you can dial in different nuances of what makes up a human voice. It'll come to me probably after, the day after I've finished this. But like I said, since I'm trying to recreate what I already did, the spontaneity of everything that you're about to see is out the window. So I know what the results are. So that's going to allow us to make a more concise video. Happy to you, because I thought I was going to make a 30-minute video. Wound up being like 2 hours just because we listened to every output. This is not going to be a quote-unquote edited video. I try and do things that are more like hangs, and we find out stuff together as we do little bits of experiments and just have fun listening to this toy/tool. Anyway, your ability to fish out a particular sounding voice, I don't think really happens with Suno. Suno recreates every aspect. If you put in a perfectly produced thing, it's going to recreate it with its own instrumentation. It's just the way it's set up. Personas is more about performance. And one of the things that I was able to do was real simply, if I want to try out a particular, all right, so I write a song. In fact, we'll explore this now. At the time, I was going through my library of hundreds of songs that had quote-unquote dead-ended, where I was writing this music back in the 90s and early 2000s. And I've got Cubase, and was taking old songs that I did in Cubases, which was just MIDI notes, and then I was adding instrumentation, stuff like that, and actually trying to take song fragment ideas that I didn't necessarily. I had parts, but it didn't have real arrangements, and it didn't have arrangements because it didn't have any lyrics. And I would always try and use some grouping of that to make final arrangements. Anyway, that's one of the things I find the most interesting about Suno is it's been really helpful for me to write lyrics because it takes certain aspects of songwriting and the places where I was having blockages in finishing up stuff, it sort of changed the dynamic enough and allows me to be more freely to operate more freely and quickly of testing word combinations and that sort of stuff with old ideas that have still been in my brain, even though they weren't necessarily showing up in the arrangements. Also, I have a bunch of stuff I recorded because my old computer was dying, and I wanted to make sure if everything went wrong, at least I had some backup of what I had been experimenting with. So I've got lots of things that operated as song fragments. Anyway, one of the things I started trying to do was, well, is there a way to sort of trick Suno into revealing if it did have these other personas, vocal expressions, singers, if you will. There are different AI programs, especially with DAWs and things like that, that you can get to imitate different singer identities. And I have heard with some of the music that I did that these other voices had come through. I think this happened more in 4.5, or at least the illusion of different singers was more apparent with that. And in 5, it's less so. And one of the magic things that helped reveal it, and it's all actually tied to, from what I can determine, it's all tied to the song genre more so than anything else. And I did an experiment thinking, well, maybe if it's in different languages, that I could capture something in that if there's particular ethnicities that have vocal ranges, ethnicities, cultures, just generally speaking, that you'll have different voices that would be in different registers, let's say, or different expressions because they use different phonemes and things like that, that there would be something in it that I might be able to pluck out and then reapply to my music. Well, it turns out there's something even more fascinating to me tied in with, as an native English speaker, we'll just say foreign languages, but international languages. So let's get back to Suno, and I'll do a demonstration of where I was going with. I'm going to do a recreation, but it won't be nearly as what it was before. So just for reference, here's the song that I was working on at the time, and it's like a lot of my music. It doesn't. And here's the other sort of problem I have is when I write, I don't necessarily write with a genre specifically in mind. I'm a prog rock guy, so it's all mixtures of genre anyway. Just trying to make interesting music. So here's what we started off with. The song is called Heartfelt. No lyrics, but Alright, so from there it's basically a loop idea. There's a little extra stuff going on, but anyway, so that's where the original music is coming from. And with this, a lot of times what I'll do is when I upload music, I'll actually strip it of its initial, you can see over here. I'm always curious to see what it thinks the genre that I am writing in is. Uh, and its descriptions of what I do is always interesting to me, but also doesn't necessarily bear the way that I think about it. So what I'll do is to get some ideas kind of moving is I actually strip out when I'm generating a cover. I'll strip out all that, and you'll see it'll say no styles, and then I'll just kind of work the sliders. I was doing, and this is all version 5. I was doing weirdness 80. Was it style influence 86 ish? And audio influence 72. So I'm really trying to lift from what I had and just, so I'll give you a listen.
Unexpectedly, all too soon, abandon me. I'm bleeding out all my sympathy. My heart is shutting down. Heartfelt and genuine, imperfect contrition. Scars felt but forgotten, heartfelt and genuine.
I don't remember it doing the spoken word the last time I listened to it a couple of days ago. I'm always a little suspicious that it's rebaking the cake, which maybe it is, maybe it's not. And something else I've noticed, I also got the Suno app on my phone, and it uses up a whole bunch of data when I'm streaming and listening to the stuff that I've created, and I don't know why that is. Because all I'm doing is I'm not necessarily making new songs. I'm just listening to stuff from the library, and it is a data hog. So yeah, I'm always a little suspicious that maybe it's changing things while I'm not paying attention. I don't know how to do an experiment. Well, I actually do know how to do an experiment. Maybe that'll be something I cover not too long ago, or down the future. And the other thing that's kind of funny is when I was doing it, I did an outrageous hammer on at the beginning, and it's kind of cool to see when it regenerates. Given some of the differences that I'll do, is how it interprets some of those musical events, because it was just kind of a fun thing to do, not knowing when you don't have words, you have a kind of an intention in the music, but you don't necessarily have the whether you are being more lighthearted or more serious. The words will direct the way that the song goes. And so anyway, yeah, a lot of times when I do stuff, I think that when you generate enough content, that it also is probably paying attention to what you're offering it. This is my guess. I don't know about how they actually have it set up, but there are things that I do that get returned to me now that I've done hundreds of songs through Suno, and it's kind of interesting. So we'll listen to one portion. We don't have to listen to the whole thing, but we'll see the sort of momentum of things. But I tend to get a lot of the same returns in the vocal performance, the kind of person that thinks that a male singer is going to sound like singing what I've given it. It is interesting also in that respect to see what it thinks would be the whether you think it should be like a super bass male or a real high pitched squeaky guy. It tends to find things in a particular range when it returns. And that was one of the other points that I made in my comments to the Sam Meets AI video. Something that I found is, and I go through this as well when I was trying to find ways of capturing personas, male and female, when I start going through the foreign languages. The differences that can also make in order to sort of capture this different sort of persona and pull from it. And I'll also include some other stuff that I attempted to do, which, again, like I'll save you the time if you stick around long enough. But let's listen to this. Okay, here's a female version. Okay, I think this is the only difference is I put it on the female category.
You've wounded me.
Okay, in this one I probably turned both genders off. And sometimes that'll have it render two different gendered performances within it. But when you do a specific gendered role, it will change the arrangement to feature the voice better, is my theory. Okay. As you can see, I rendered out plenty of different versions. And that's always, I think, part of the fun of this. That's the toy aspect. You're just going to kind of blindly go searching for different aspects, but within that too, it's kind of interesting. Again, like if you're looking to like capture a persona to replicate it, I think the persona thing is much more geared towards a recreatable. I mean, you can get it to recreate a vocal performance, like a style. You can sometimes trick it into sounding like a particular performer because you're utilizing their isms. Um, and I can go through that a little bit too. But um, you're not capturing a different performer. You're getting their performance nuances, and that's kind of the thing that would. So I did like a Susie Sue from Susie Sue and the Banshees and Creatures, um, and Del Bozio from Missing Persons and stuff like that. They have very extreme approaches to performance, so it's much easier to sort of pick up on their vocal uh, performances, and that can get into the whole idea about the ethics and philosophies of scraping their performances. Are you stealing from them? And I would just say, to a degree, um, yeah, that does happen, but it doesn't sound like them. I mean, it sounds like them in their nuances in performance, but it ain't them. Uh, and it sounds close to them, but it isn't their voice. Um, it's kind of like if you were to do like a comedian is going to do Richard Nixon or something like that. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger for that matter. There are things that we say and ways that we say it that can be replicated, and we can be amused because they sound similar enough that we recognize it, and then of course you're having them say uh, ridiculous things or like Frank Caliendo or whatever, and that's the fun of it. But you're not, you know, you could on first blush maybe even like sort of like what AI is doing with like the Sora 2 or whatever. Um, you can recognize who these are supposed to be, but at the same time, like you recognize that it is not that real person. There's just, I mean, you can do stuff that if you're not paying attention, maybe fools you a little bit, but when you really examine it, it's like, nah, it's nothing like it. Um, all right, so what I started to do then was to take the song and I was going to see if we can get to pull out a different singer by way of doing uh, different languages. And one of the interesting things that I found from my experiment was that, again, I think it has more to do with genre. However, the arrangement, as much as it will open up between male and female, depending on your language, it also has cultural sensitivity, for lack of a better term, in that I don't know how sensitive you would say it. I would assume that they have musicologists or something like that working at Suno AI that says, all right, well, if you're trying to get this kind of a genre, here are the elements that make it up. And likewise, they've probably scrubbed enough music, even if it's, let's say, an Italian band makes a song and sings in English, there's enough Italianisms in it that it can draw from. So if you were to perform in Italian, it might have enough of those nuances, or also songs that are favored to Italian ears, it would take some of those production techniques and other sort of like arrangements that go around it. This is my sort of theory, and that's why I think that there is some value in, and I think what I covered in the last video, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, I was listening to a radio station, and they were having fun where they took Madonna had just come out with some new, and I forget which song it was or which album that it had just released, and so they were having fun reinterpreting the lyrics because Google Translate I think had just come out about the same time, and so they fed like her English lyrics into I don't know like Urdu and then turned it to Japanese. So from Urdu to English to Urdu, Urdu to Japanese, and then Japanese back to English, and the reinterpretation through the different filters of language and interpretation between all those, and coming back made the ideas of everything sort of is the ultimate game of telephone, and so that was a lot of fun. And so likewise, you might experiment with taking your song, if you've got lyrics, translate the lyrics into a foreign language to whatever you're starting from, and then have that reinterpret the music, and then take the music back, and then in my case, turn it back to English, and you might be able to pull these exotic flavors. Whereas, growing up with the Beatles and having the sitar and the tabla and stuff like that was always like, it's one of the reasons why I like the Beatles so much was it had this exotic sound and it really changed the face of rock and roll in a lot of ways. All right, so here's the German version. So I played you some of the returns it gave me, but the production changes, and I'm going to go through German and Frisian, and I do that just because my name or whatever, but we'll hear the German first.
Oh, verwundet, du hast mein Herz verwundet. So unerwartet. Oh, oh, viel zu früh ließest du mich gehen. Ich verblut mein Mitgefühl. Mein Herz wird still und leer. Alles, was ich tat, war von Herzen ehrlich gemeint. Ich gab dir alles, was ich bin. Oh. Ging's davon, du hast dich abgewandt. So unerwartet. Oh. Oh, oh. Viel zu bald stehst du wieder hier. Ich gab hin mein Mitgefühl, doch mein Herz schlägt weiter fort. Alles, was ich tat, war von Herzen ehrlich gemeint. Ich gab dir alles, was ich bin. Von Herzen ehrlich gemeint. In stiller Reue Narben brennen, doch vergehen. Von Herzen ehrlich gemeint.
So that was interesting too. It pulled in little female backup stuff. I can't remember exactly in these early experiments. Oh, and the other thing I'll say too is native English speaker. I don't speak I speak very little, just because I was in the strings orchestra. I know a little bit of Italian and German and French just because of music notation and all the World War II movies I grew up watching. I have a little bit of that, and just a few language words from different languages. So I can't guarantee that the lyrics that I originally wrote translated. In fact, I did through some of it, to see how off the wall some of the lyrics when you translate to other languages. There can be subtleties will be lost, um, but also just kind of hearing what I assume is like cultural sensitivity. Now you can never be sure because every time that you regenerate or generate a song, it's going to be different anyway. But there are when I do these things, notice that there's no style information. It really is just kind of like all the settings were kept the same. The only variable that I threw at it was changing the language. And English being a Germanic language, as I've been understanding it through the development of what it is. Frisian is supposed to be that bridging language. I mean, yes, I chose it because my last name is De Vries, or De Vries. But Frisian is supposed to be the middle language between German, Frisian, English is supposed to be how it happened. Whereas you have like your Romance languages and stuff that all come out of Latin, begets Spanish and French and Italian. So I did. We'll listen to the Frisian version, which is Dutch essentially, and it's interesting to hear how it interprets the music, and also notice that the voice is the same sort of range for the male singer, and we'll concentrate on the male version of the equation for right now.
Oh, Verona, du hast mein Herz verronnen, sa onverwachte, oh volle te gauw, hast mij al in litten. Ik bloed leeg om in mijn libje noet, mijn hart valt stadig stil. Alles wat ik dien had, wie moet de herten eerlijk meinend. Ik doe die alles wat ik ben. Oh, voor het roem die omdraait, sa onverwachte, oh volle te gauw, komst weer naar mij. Ik ga vergeten, min mijn libje noet, maar mijn hart blijft klopjen vierder. Alles wat ik dien had, wie hoe de herden eerlijk meinend. Ik doe die alles wat ik ben. Ik doe die alles wat ik ben.
I don't remember that bridge being like that before. Might be coming parallel.
Hoe de herten eerlijk meinend, een soeverein berouw. Liet de woeden vergen, hoe de herten een eerlijk meinend.
So I will say, I wonder what's going on in Friesland, where do they favor a lot of piano? That was kind of weird that it chose that. But again, like, hey, maybe that's a different aspect culturally. They may be gravitational towards different instrumentation. So I would just say, like, even though th- the language has changed, and again, this will, I think, reinforce sort of my thinking. The language changes, the voice, the inherent voice that it's pulling from is the Suno male voice, with just, it's adding in some extra performance that would be necessary to hear the language in a in a more naturalistic way. But it's still rendering out not a particularly high voice or low voice, but this kind of thing, which I think is it's choosing a voice that best fits the music and the style that it thinks it's going. Even though I gave it no style information, I think it's still responding uh, pretty loyally to the music that I offered it. And let's see. Yeah, the audio influence that I'm giving it is pretty high. It was all these were done with the same variables. Like I said, the weirdness is 72, style influence is 72, and then the audio influence is at 60. So yeah, there's room for it to make interpretations. Um, but listening to it going through these different languages, I think it really is kind of pulling from like a cultural norm, if you will, for its arrangement, which pretty fascinating. So to break out of that, I went to something that seems within the realm of possibility, but different enough. So I chose Norwegian. So we're going to listen to some Norwegian and see, again, like what happens with the quality of the voice. But at this point, when I originally did the video, I was just, taking stabs in the dark to see what it would return. Now I kind of know, but what was more revelatory was what it's going to do to your arrangement and how it may actually have this cultural aspect to what it's going to give you. So I would just encourage people to experiment, and there might be something out there that you find that there is an attractiveness in the way that it's reinterpreting based off of the language, not necessarily like pop, rock, folk, whatever, because even those could be potentially interpreted through the guise of the language that's being used. This might be a female version.
Såret du har, såret meg så uventet og altfor snart forlot du meg. Jeg blør ut all min medfølelse. Mitt hjerte stenger seg ned. Alt jeg noen gang har gjort var av hjerte og ærlig ment. Jeg ga deg alt jeg har. Du har gått fra meg så uventet alt for snart kom du tilbake. Jeg har blødd ut all min medfølelse, men mitt hjerte slår fortsatt. Alt jeg noen gang har gjort var av hjerte og ærlig ment. Jeg ga deg alt jeg har. kommen anger har følt, men glemt av hjerte og ærlig ment.
Oh, I will say too. You'll notice that there was also a lot of piano. I don't know that the Norwegians are particularly more into piano. That I always thought of them as being more like super into death metal and stuff like that. Um, when you have no style, when you're generating this stuff, and like I said, I'm kind of recreating what I had gone through. All this stuff I did on the fly in the original version of the video. Um, but one of the things I've kind of found is when you offer it no style, it kind of carries over from other versions that you generate. So it's possible that for whatever reason happened with the Frisians, where it decided to like focus in on a piano doing the function, and that probably is coming from the timbre of the original guitar and the recording, because sometimes it will take certain like if you've got an affected guitar, let's say, sometimes it can rightly determine that it's an overdriven guitar or just particularly like vibrant bronze strings on an acoustic, or it might also interpret something as synth. And if you offer it no styles, sometimes it'll take from what it's listening to and it will sort of say, well, if we think that this sounds more synthy and you're giving us no styles, well, this kind of color of that instrument, we think, timbre or whatever, sounds more like a soul song or sounds more like a country western, whatever it winds up being. And it will sort of, I think, sort of move itself by this internal formula into that sort of thing as well. So I just offer that as, if you're listening to this, I think that kind of happens. I'm going to play this one too. I can't remember. I was pretty sure I generated male voices and then I switched to try and see what would happen with the female. And then like I did a male and female per language. Let's see if this is also female. So I can't remember if I generated a male version of that. But anyway, we'll go to, and I didn't label them because I was generating on the fly. Later on I did, because I made a Frisian female and a German female rendering, and I started labeling them as male or female. Here's Croatian. Play the one I thumbed up. Oh, this might be a female version.
Rani, ti si me ranio tako neočekivano. Prebrzo ostavio si me. Iskrvarih svu svoju samilost. Moje srce se gasi polako. Sve što sam ikad učinila bilo je od srca iskreno. Dala sam ti sve što imam, nešto imam. Oči bole, ali blijede od srca. Iskreno.
Now, again, like this, I'll play what I believe is the male version next. But pay attention when you choose a female voice. It opens up the arrangement. There's usually a lot more room and air in it, and I've found that female arrangements tend to have like a lot more backup singing and doubling that happens, which I think is not so much like it needs to reinforce the female voice, but that I think that it's more typical that that is how it's done. And also, it strikes me a bit the more and more that I play around, and I render out a lot of stuff with the female voice because I think it's very effective. And when I'm making my own music, I cannot sing like a female. Try as I might. But I think that there is a certain degree of foreplay that happens when it constructs an arrangement. It's the original thing that I played at the beginning has much more of a direct get to it kind of thing, whereas a lot of the times when you use a female vocal gender, as I say, it creates an appropriate, what I would say is what it would consider an appropriate arrangement that if you were to see a live female singer, it goes the way that you would hope and expect, I think. And it's just kind of funny to hear the ramp up is considerably different than when you get a male. Now, and also with it being Croatian, that's a factor that also might play into it. So I believe here is a male version.
Oh.
Males like to get into it from the beginning.
Ranjen, ti si me ranio, tako neočekivano. Prebrzo ostavio si me, iskrvari svu svoju samilost. Moje srce se gasi polako. Sve što sam ikad učinila bilo je od srca i iskreno. Dala sam ti sve što imam. Otišao si, ti si otišao od mene tako neočekivano. Prebrzo vratio si se meni, iskrvari svu svoju samilost, ali srce moje i dalje kuca. Sve što sam ikad učinila bilo je od srca i iskreno. Dala sam ti sve što imam.
Croatians love synth bass, apparently.
Ožiljci bole, ali bljede od srca iskreno. Od srca iskreno.
Okay, by this time in the original video that I did of this, I was starting to like, okay, well, I've been dealing with European languages, even though now we've gotten away from, English and the Germanic languages. We sort of moved into Norwegian and Croatian, so it gets sort of like a super North Euro and then Central Southern. So then to like really switch it up, it's like, all right, well, let's try Mandarin. Let's see what the differences are here. And that's when I also started to notice up at the top, you'll get a little AI image based off of the lyrics, and all of a sudden I saw a clock showing up, and it's like, what's that got to do with it? So then I started to like wonder about the translations that I was generating. Probably 3 people who speak English will watch this video, and if you got this far and you're a native Mandarin speaker or you speak both, I doubt anyone will be here. But if you happen to be, and can tell, because I can, I did everything through ChatGPT to do the translations, and also one of the nice things that it would do was it poetically tried to match the original English pacing and interpretation of ideas, but I can't check it because I don't speak other languages, so I don't know why there's a clock on the image. But here's Mandarin. Let's see if this is the male or female version. Female version. You can always tell. It usually tends to start in like open and kind of quiet. Let's do apples to apples. We'll do the male version. Again, opening. You'll know if it's male or female.
慢慢关上我曾经做的一切，都是真心的，也是真诚的。我给了你我所有的一切。回到我身边，我已流尽所有的怜悯，但我的心依然在跳动。我曾经做的一切都是真心的，也是真诚的。我给了你我所有的一切，都是真理性的，也是真诚的。我给了你我所有的一切。在完美的忏悔中，伤疤又再缺一淡忘。真心的，真心的，真心的。
All right, our Mandarin friends know how to rock, but they love nasally guitars. All right, we'll press on here a little bit. And the last thing that language that I attempted to do was Tamil. And again, like I don't speak it, I just kind of thought it would be drastic. And I think that definitely hearing it this way is one of the ones. Now, maybe you could say this is Suno. Well, I will say, from what I can determine, Suno's used globally, so I don't know that it would necessarily have Western ears' perspective on what it expects from other cultural, like arrangement. But kind of like my love of the Beatles, when I threw in Tamil, there is sort of Bollywoodisms, if you'll forgive the expression. I don't know enough about the differences and things to know of its appropriateness, but like I said, I do care about these things. I don't mean to say that I don't care, but again, it's like if you go searching for the exotic by way of language, you might be able to pull in some form of arrangement or thing that's liked by a particular culture that you wouldn't expect, and then that might inform your music in a whole different and unexpected way. Which, as someone who's into prog, I like the unexpected. I like musical surprise. So this has been a lot of fun to try this, and I might outside of it taking, every time you do this, it's taking up your credits. But if you got credits to spend, and I mean, I got hundreds of songs I got to go through, so I feel more compelled to like chase that sort of stuff other than necessarily going after this. But if you've really want to like try something different, unexpected, more so than just hitting your style stuff, exploring different languages might be really, really helpful. And I'll have to do a version of this where I'll take a genre. Pop is the obvious one. I would say try and get away from that. Like, do maybe like folk, and then try it through different languages, and to hear if there's the folk perspective of the language is going to be interpreted. What that might mean, like, would you get some Occidental instruments? Are you going to get a balalaika if you have a Slavic, like arrangement or something like that? Maybe I'll make a follow-up immediately after this, and then we can hear things fresh and get a true reaction instead of trying to recreate a video that I somehow muted. All right, here's the Tamil. Let's see. Well, you'll be able to tell if it's male or female without it being listed. Female. Let's do the male version.
நீ என்னை காயப்படுத்தினாய், அது எதிர்பாராமல். ஓ, மிகவும் விரைவில் நீ என்னை விட்டு சென்றாய். நான் இரத்தமாய் என் இரக்கமெல்லாம் கொடுத்தேன். என் இதயம் மெல்ல மூடிக்கொள்கிறது. நான் செய்த ஒவ்வொன்றும் இதயத்தில் இருந்து மெய்யாகவே நான் கொடுத்தேன். என்னிடம் உள்ளதனைத்தும் நான் கொடுத்தேன். என்னிடம் உள்ளதனைத்தும். நடந்து சென்றாய், நீ திரும்பி போனாய் அது எதிர்பாராமலோ மிக விரைவில் நீ மீண்டும் வந்தாய் நான் கொடுத்து விட்டேன் என் இரக்கமெல்லாம் ஆனால் என் இதயம் இன்னும் துடிக்கிறது நான் செய்த ஒவ்வொன்றும் இதயத்தில் இருந்து மெய்யாகவே நான் கொடுத்தேன் என்னிடம் உள்ளதனைத்தும் நான் கொடுத்தேன் என்னிடம் உள்ளதனைத்தும் இதயத்தில் இருந்து மெய்யாகவே முழுமையான பசியோடு மறையாத காயங்களோடு இதயத்தில் இருந்து மெய்யாகவே இதயத்தில் இருந்து மெய்யாகவே
Oh, there you have it. So that was my experiment, and I was, again, doing it to hope that from the performance that there would be something in it, character-wise, that would reveal another kind of voice. And the more that I listened to it, the more I was convinced. It's basically one voice. And nuances in the performance is really what you would be able to generate in a persona. And then doing the various languages reveals characteristics inherent to the language that is part of the performance. But I would, if I took what we just heard and created a persona out of it, the thing is, once it goes into English, you're going to lose the character of it because it is performative within the style of the language. And you're not even like getting something that's like in a particularly different range, even though the arrangements are changing, meaning like alto, tenor, that sort of stuff. I mean, it's all kind of like couched in the same thing, and it's still, all these are still referencing the original recording. And so that, I did it so you don't have to. You can do your own experiments. But what I was going to do is I will play you something that I made in 4.5. It was a song, and as I made in the comments to Sam Meets AI or whatever, I used the term cartoon, and because the piece of music I was saying music like it was made for cartoon, and it really exposed what sounded to my ears like lots of different singers voices, personas, true personas, and that I've been trying to like, could I extract one of those? And the more I listened to it in 4.5, I think the difference is considerably more drastic. Like, it has been filtered so that you get something, even though its base is probably the same voice, but but it's filtered enough where it really genuinely does now start sounding like we're talking about different singers, not just the same singer giving you a different performance. So let's bring that up real quick, and I'll give you a brief taste of the original, so you can, again, just for your own reference to see how this stuff goes. The song was called Madness. I had no lyrics for it. When I write a piece of music, um, whether it was just doing MIDI notes or whatever, or I think this one might have been when I just had Cubasis, which is just MIDI notation. Um, when you save a file, you got to name it. So just whatever came to me at the moment, that burst of inspiration, I always hold on to, and so I'll use it. Like, this is probably 20 something, almost 30 years later, from writing this piece of music, that I use that as the inspiration for it. It's kind of, well, you'll hear. Or you give the idea, the general vibe of it. Quirky, to say the least. I don't know that there is a genre that really describes that. But the idea of it being named Madness, so and it's got like this wonkiness to it. So eventually, I did some iterations on it, and then that inspired. Okay, well, I'll take this, and so I've tried to like do this cartoonistic idea of someone losing their rocker by having, and this is also where I started discovering about if you put in parenthetical information as a different singer. So I was trying to play with this idea of the many voices in the singer's head, alluding to his madness, and he's questioning his sanity, and of course the other voices are chiming in. Was the idea to bring a little comedic, cartoony nature to it. So, but when I entered in the idea of it being cartoony, now you're going to get some like radically different voices, and the problem is, as much as I want to like take this and take that, I don't know how to get them recreated individually. And this original was uploaded back in 4.5, so I'll play a little bit of the 4.5. This is the instrumental version. Oh, and shout out to Alan White, drummer of Yes, and a lesser known fellow, John Lennon. I used a sample pack for that, so I wanted to shout out. I was able to actually meet him, and I was able to thank him in person for many years ago. He did a whole sample pack, which is really cool. It's called Drum Corps. It's a VST, essentially, where he would recreate a number of famous songs that he worked on, and he would play it at slightly differently at 10 beats per minute increments. So take the original performance and then 10 beats per minute higher, and then 10 more. And also he did the opposite, which he would slow it down and slow it down and slow it down. And the whole concept with this drum corps package is that a real live drummer doing their performance will change the nuance of how they do it depending on the tempo. And it's they have a really good point. So if you ever get like a drum machine or drum library and it has a performance, I mean they'll give you a basic range, but if it's just MIDI notes, the performance never really changes. It's just saying like, okay, well this beat was done at 168 or something like that, and as long as you're really close to that, it's appropriate drum part. But if you really try and half time it and stuff like that, they've gotten more sophisticated with it, but it's never the same thing. The wrist is going to operate on the drummer differently, and so if you're curious about it, if you're the one person other than myself who will ever watch this video and stuck around this long, I'll make that recommendation. But I just wanted to point it out, and it will appear many times because like I said, I love that, and not just Alan White, Terry Bozzio, and Matt Sorum, and a bunch of other people that I used and made use of their stuff. So I was very thankful to Alan White and told him so, and he's like, he didn't remember at all. Of course, I met him after the tour after Chris Squire had died. So this was probably like 2017 or something like that. And Drum Corps, I think, came out around 2006-07, something like that. So it's probably like a week of, he's running off doing all this other stuff, and he seemingly forgot all about it. But I thanked him profusely, and I'm glad I did. All right. So this is a version. All right. This is before I added lyrics. All right, so you can see the trajectory it took, but then like I'm here and I was like, okay, and then I gave it the music for cartoon, trip hop, and I'm going crazy. That's what I threw in as the style notes. And the weirdness, of course, is up to 80%. Style influence, and this is under 4.5, was at 95, and then audio influence was 70. I wanted it to really retain a lot of what was going on, and so this is where I started to offer a few words. And the thing at this time that I really started to notice, because this was early on, fairly early on, when I started playing with Suno originally, was if you wanted to extend a song, and this is still kind of true, if you just give it a little bit of words, the song will end quickly. So what you try and do is you try and create things in a form that Suno can relate to, which is you start giving it verses and choruses and giving it directions like add a bridge, that sort of stuff. And it can cut up and appropriately seed a song that gets into the pop length, which is anywhere from 2.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes. And you can extend it out further. It usually caps off at around 5 minutes because, that's just what it will do. However, I've gotten it to generate a 7-minute song, and I don't know why it did it. But, roughly you want a 3-minute-ish song. And so you got to generate a lot of words for it to do it. So this is an early attempt, and then I'll play this. And also, I think I started playing with some of the other descriptions to really juice the results. But listen for the different voices that seemingly start to appear.
crazy.
Madness isn't catching, or is it fetching? Am I going crazy, or is the world just a little off? I scoff, how off? Certainly madness is catching, or am I crazy? The world seems all too sane. But sane. Day and day. You're my
I'm going crazy.
All right, so I started generating, and then I'll play a couple of these. Like I obviously have generated a lot because it's a fun sort of thing. But the more I got into it, the more the performances. So you'll see that I started really getting into these sort of other voices, parenthetical stuff, and it really opened up things that Suno can do because here's evidence of it. And I just wish that there was a way for you to direct Suno to give you these things that otherwise it's going to spontaneously create. Now, granted, some of it's filtering like sort of the telephone call sort of stuff as it's mixing in these things production-wise. So maybe there's a way that you could get it to do something along those lines. And some of these are, when you start listening to it as well, it's not like you're getting a new voice, but it is an imitative performance. So when I say cartoon, music for cartoons, it does seem to reference that sort of merry melodies, like 1930s Looney Tunes, kind of, you know, the Betty Boop and all that sort of stuff, if you listen for it. But it's radically different enough that, again, like, if I could capture that and then reuse it as a persona, which is what the whole point of this video is, I would love to do it. I just don't know how to grab it. And it seems more apparent in 4.5 than in 5. 5, I can hear the Suno voice more distinctly, and I rendered out versions in 5 of the same stuff, and you'll see that in a second, but give it a listen. Cartoon is a powerful description.
I'm going crazy. Stretching. Am I going crazy? Or is the world just a little off? Surely I scoff. We scoff. How off? Certainly. Madness is catching. How lovely. Or am I crazy? Probably. The world seems to say the same. But same again. Day in day. All the way. Oh my. Madness. Madness. Madness isn't catching. Maybe. Or is it fetching? Quite seductive. Am I going crazy at all? Or is the world just a little off? I scoff. We scoff. How off? Certainly. Madness is catching. Or am I crazy? The world seems all too sane. The same.
Day in, day
Madness! 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 Madness. Shh, hush now, everything's fine.
The horse whinny was very unexpected, and yes, if you're following along, I did notice the typo, and something else that again, like, if you could understand how to, if I understood how to actually do it, it's tricky too, because when I'm trying to do the other voices to get them to intonate and do stuff. I mean, half the fun of doing AI is it's kind of out of your control, so you can only get so much out of it. But trying to have this wordplay happening, and it's not always rendering in a way. I mean, I suppose that's even more maddening. But so there's some things that are off, but it was like really surprising when I first did this, because I wasn't expecting to get the 1930s da 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 da, like Looney Tunesisms. So that's, like I said, using the term cartoon is pretty powerful. The only other thing so far that I've come across that is equally powerful is rock opera. If you add under your style notes rock opera, you are going to get Jesus Christ Superstar. It's really pretty awesome. I'll leave that again for another time. Maybe we'll do a thing that just is the most powerful terms. So I'm going to do another version of this. I'll give you a couple more flavors of 4.5. And so that one I put in woodwinds and stuff as terms to, like draw from. And I really like that. On this next version, and I'm just doing these randomly, I can't remember which ones are which because it's been a while since I listened to it. But the terms of use for this one are electro pop, trip hop, synths feature, cartoonish, brass and woodwind ensembles, string ensemble, mechanical, I'm going crazy. Last two lyrics are whispered in wide stereo pan. I think you can bracket as an instruction in the lyrics as well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just the nature of AI, I guess. You can tell it to do spoken word, but I didn't know that at this time. So again, like if I could figure out how to best direct the performance, I would. I just don't know how, and that's why we're going through this as experiments. So here's what those terms leads to.
Last two is Wisman Shore. Madness isn't catching, it is fetching. Am I going crazy, or is the world just a little off? Surely I scoff. How off? Certainly, madness is catching, or am I crazy? The world sees all the same. All the way. Am I crazy?
We'll say that was cool, and I noticed this a few times too. The clarinet, sometimes you'll get a solo that transforms between voice, instrument, and another instrument all in one go.
Am I going crazy? Not at all. Or is the world just a little on? I scoff. How off? Certainly. Madness catching. Or am I crazy? We are. The world sees all the same.
Destiny's Child showing up was unexpected.
Hush, now everything's fine.
Oh, do one last under the 4.5.
Am I going crazy? Or is the world just a little off? On, I scoff. We scoff. How off? Tish pop. Certainly. Madness is catching. Or am I crazy? We are. The world seems all to say the now everything's fine.
All right, now we'll jump to some, like a version or two is of 5, and basically I just replicated even the same search terms. Now the jump from 4.5 to 5 with the sliders, I've from everything that I understand that it's drastically different. I couldn't tell you. I believe it to like be in more extremes. Maybe there's, depending on whether you're more towards 100% or 0% or somewhere in between, it's going to render different things. And it does do that from what I could tell from 4.5. Irregardless, the more important thing is listen to the performance of the voices. And I think somewhere in 4.5 to get the effect of the craziness that's going on, it rendered the voices more distinctly. And in 5, even though, well, what I would say is they've purported that the ability to generate vocals with 5 are much more naturalistic. But at the same time, I also believe that some of the other characters that it can do sounds more similar. So give it a listen, see if you, given the same thing, again, I can't recreate it because it's AI. It will never recreate what it did before, but it should have enough similarity that you can kind of glean from it.
Madness isn't catching.
Quality of the strings is different too.
Madness isn't catching.
Is it?
Isn't it? Or is it madness, madness. Madness isn't catching, maybe, or is it fetching? See, suddenly,
Quite seductive.
am I going crazy?
Not at all.
Or is the world just
Oh no.
certainly madness?
Catching.
Or am I crazy? Will the world see the same? Day and day, no.
Madness.
Madness.
Madness. Madness. Madness. Hush. Now, everything's fine.
It's more polished, but some of that rawness got lost. Oh, I did change up the term. This is electro pop, trip hop, heavy groove, funky, since featured cartoonish brass and woodwind ensembles. So,
Madness isn't catching.
Is it? It is, isn't it?
Or is it fetching?
Fetching.
Am I going crazy?
Or is the world?
Just a little off. I scoff.
We scoff. How off, certainly.
Madness is catching.
How lovely.
Or am I crazy?
So lovely.
The world seems all to say the same. Day and day, all the way to madness.
Madness.
Madness isn't catching.
Maybe.
Or is it
Quite
fading?
seductive.
Am I going crazy?
Not at all.
Or is the world
Just a little off.
honest?
We scoff.
Certainly.
Madness,
Is
Just catching.
Or am I crazy?
The world seems so sane.
Day and day, day and day and day. Madness. Hush now, everything's fine. Madness. Hush now, everything's fine.
now in that version, there was some different voices that showed up that I don't recall. Not saying I added them in, but that were actually in the male. The male voice, there was something in there that. So there's an ability to create a character and to get a performance. I just wish I knew how to extract that and then take those characteristics and then allow it to be applied within other stuff. The other thing I'll just offer, I also try to do a string of things where I did an experiment. So I am, as you probably could tell, a little bit of a ham and not the best actor. So, but I was trying to see if I could, within the realm of English, could I capture certain accents? And that's one of those things I can, for the life of me, I can't get it to do it. And when I was experimenting with the foreign languages, or the other languages, you're getting characteristics within the speech. And so I was hoping that maybe there's could I get someone to sound like they've got a thick Yorkshire or Scottish or Southern, and I tried doing Cockney. So Cockney was going to be my experiment. And so I had ChatGPT. I wrote a song and I described it as like a 1974 British comedy uh, because there was a piece of music I did that kind of sounded like maybe it could work in that context. And so I had ChatGPT. I gave it a scenario of a couple of characters and then gave him some dialogue, sample dialogue, which I read and I did the most ham-fisted uh, dry read. Like I'm not going to practice. This is just an experiment. Uh, and strangely enough, I some of my attempts, my poor attempts at Cockney, would make Dick Van Dyke's rendition seem like Sir John Gielgud or something like that, which I know is a bad example when we're talking about doing Cockney. Um, anyway, it was not great, and it sounded like W.C. Fields and different things. And so I would reiterate it and take through so I could generate a persona and to see if there was any like nuances from the performance. So I would do it as spoken word, and actually I'll just play some of those. It's kind of funny because Suno wants to make music, so it was putting in some incidental music. I will spare you the agony of hearing the original performance. Let's get to it. Here we go. The Cockney accent capture experiment. So eventually what I did do is I took one of the versions of it and then I sped it up because I was trying to get like a nasally kind of performance, and it wouldn't do it. And again, like, so I thought I got something where there was like oddities in the speech pattern, took that, applied it to another song, and it's like it just did nothing. There was no persona in the voice. There's persona in performance. And even in the performance, it's not in the necessarily in the characteristics. If you sang in a particular way, maybe it does that, but I was trying to generate oddities in the voice that it would capture, and it just really doesn't. There might be oddities in a otherwise a singing performance that it could latch onto and grab and then reinterpret, but
Sorry, love. Door was open, innit? Thought I'd save you the trouble of answering. Consider it chivalry, modern style.
Ah, but in your day, Mrs. Weatherspoon, half the doors had knockers big enough to wake the Queen herself.
Don't blame me for progress.
That were me band rehearsing. We're getting quite the following down the pub. Charlie and the Charmers. Catch it?
Good means the music's reaching the foundation, just like the Beatles did.
Tell you what, next gig I'll stick you on the
It's
guest
weird,
list,
it's-
front row.
Right next to the speakers.
Now that's a mental image.
Don't tempt me, Mrs. Weathersby. We could make a fortune. Performance art, they call it these days. Very avant-garde. Guilty as charged, my lady. But you love it, really brightenens up your afternoons, don't it?
Tell you what then, I'll make us a cuppa, peace offering builder's brew, 2 sugars, extra
all over
strong,
the
put
place.
hairs on your teacup.
Earl Grey?
Bit posh, that.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you'll be voting Tory and buying Foxhound.
Sorry, love. Door was open, innit?
yeah, I was just doing one side of a conversation. ChatGPT's idea of what a 1974 comedy situation would be. So you're hearing punchline, I guess.
Thought I'd save you the trouble of answering. Consider it chivalry, modern style.
Ah, but in your day, Mrs. Weathersby, half the doors had knockers big enough to wake the Queen herself.
Don't blame me for progress.
That were me band rehearsing.
We're getting quite the following down the pub. Charlie and the Charmers. Keckly, innit?
Good. Means the music's reaching the foundation, just like the Beatles did.
Tell you what, next gig I'll stick you on the guest list, front row, right next to the speakers. Now that's a mental image.
All right, so anyway, like I said, I took one of those, I took it into Suno Studio, pitched it up a little bit, and then saved that as a persona. And I'll play a little song using that, and that's why I'm saying, like, the oddities that are in there, they just don't translate, even when I came through. So here's a song, and there's a better version of it. This was an experiment to use this. So my description, taking the Charlie, and so it's British Cockney singer, young male, high-pitched voice, 1968 rock, Britpop, bubblegum, Abbey Road, chamber orchestra, backing arrangement, prominent tambourine strikes on the twos and fours, modern clear mix, weirdness 72, style influence 72. You don't get the audio thing if you use a persona. I mean, you get the slider here, but it won't list in the metadata or whatever. So, given that, here's what it rendered out. No, you just listen to the stuff, and I try to reinforce it with my style notes.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills. Not enough to trip and fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems only, little problems always. Little problems but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway. Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them, fall to your doom. Fall to your doom. There's room enough to avoid them and all the little moles that can't even see the little problems they make for you and me. For you and me. Oh, little problems only, little problems always. Little problems but not in your way. Little problems only, little problems always. Little problems but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
All right, I tried to load it up with enough stuff that, I was using Britpop, Abbey Road, Cockney singer, and there was a little bit of that, but what I think was coloring the singer that gave any idea of an accent was the term Britpop. When you strip that out, so as an experiment, I also did, so keeping a lot of the same formula for what you just heard. 1968, rock, bubblegum, Abbey Road. So I stripped out Britpop. Singer is from South Carolina, thick accent. Chamber orchestra backing arrangement, prominent tambourine strikes on the twos and fours, modern clear mix. All right, so, I'm leaning into this idea that it's going to do another accent. And the only thing that really is going to my ears, matter is the fact that Britpop is gone. So if I did country song or something like that, then a Southern style voice will show up because it's appropriate and expected for the genre. So it's more important that the genre dictates the accent. Here we go. Sound if this guy sounds like he's from Lancaster, South Carolina.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills. Not enough to trip and fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems, only little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
I mean, if this was 1968 South Carolina singer,
Mountains were
he ain't from
meant
Gaffney.
to
You know what I'm saying?
But only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them. Fall to your doom.
I do like the fact that it's got the kind of AM radio sound.
Fall to your doom.
I'm going to cut it short because we're getting up on the 2 hours, and I got some other things I got to do today. But just to like leave no stone unturned, then I was like, well, maybe if I did Canadian rock bubblegum, Abbey Road singer is from Quebec. So I'm going for like a Quebecois kind of thing. Thick accent, chamber. So keeping a lot of the other variables the same. So we're as apples to apples as possible. But apparently Suno scraped nothing from Quebecois in 1968. Or there's nothing considered Canadian rock. There's no genre that I could draw that I know the name for to find it. I suppose I could. I'll play this, and then maybe there's a little something we can try.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems, only little problems, always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway. Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them. Fall to your doom. Fall to your doom. There's room enough to avoid them and all. The little moles
Fog
that can't
Quebecois?
even see the little problems they make for you and me. For you and me. Oh, little problems, only little problems, always little problems, but not in your way. Oh, little problems.
All right, fun. All right, so we're going to end this video doing a live experiment. So we're no longer creating, recreating. We're now creating. So let's see if we can get a Quebecois accent from Suno. This will be very exciting if this works out. Let's see. So I'm going to take that same 1968 Canadian rock bubblegum stuff, and we're going to come down and go to the original upload so we can recreate this as faithfully. So we're going to do a cover, our influence 7272. I'm not going to add the persona, so hopefully that won't be polluting the issue, and we'll see if it can generate the accent. All right, so styles, let's yank that out, and we're going to put in here singers from Quebec, thick accent. All right, and what was that term? Yay, Quebecois. Oh, this is going to be fun. I hope this works. This will make my day. Make my day if this actually works. All right, I'm going to stick it in here just by itself, up high in the initial stack, and see if this makes a difference. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Male, 7272, and influence we'll leave at 72 as well. No, actually, we'll do 20. again because we're not. We'll try it with the Persona after this. Let's see what happens. Oh, this is very exciting. Ah, the images. Ah, here we go. That's half the fun of doing this. All right, here we go. Québécois.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall, fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems only, little problems always, little problems but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway. Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them. Fall to your doom. Fall to your doom. There's room enough to avoid them and all the little moles that can't even see. The little problems they make for you and me. For you and me. Oh, little problems. Little problems always. Little problems, but not in your way. Oh,
What if the arrangement is like this? Yeah, yeah, Québécois.
little problems. Little problems always. Little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
All right. Second chance. Here we go.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall, fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems only, little problems always, little problems but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
All right, I got rid of the Canadian rock part, so maybe I had competing terms, and so we'll give this a whirl. I'm still holding out hope, but kind of feel like Suno did not scrape enough yeah yeah Québécois for it to be meaningful as a term, but we'll find out. Here we go.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall, fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems, only little problems, always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway. Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to.
At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them. Fall to your doom. Fall.
I hadn't noticed there's a little bit of a John Barry sound to this song that I wasn't paying attention
There's
to.
room enough to avoid.
Maybe I'll have to see if I can get it to sound like a James Bond theme.
moles that can't even see the little
All right, I'm a last chance. I'm not going to re-render. I don't have much hope, but here's our last hope. Give me the accent, please.
Mountains are made of molehills. Just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall. Fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems. Only little problems. Always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway. Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them. Fall to your doom. Fall to your doom. There's room enough to avoid them and all the little moles that can't even see the little problems they make for you and me. For you and me. Oh, little problems. Always little problems. Always little problems, but not in your way. Oh, always little problems. Always little problems. Always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the bubblegum or this Yeah Yeah Quebecois, but that was very pleasant. I'll have to research that Yeah Yeah Quebecois. Just so you know, this is the song. I'll cover it, but I thought this turned out really well, and I forgot this was based off of Persona, which I try to grab a vocal sample of myself as an experiment with no real data in the line to express it. I was just trying to see if I could get my own voice back into Suno, which ain't gonna happen. Like I said, I think there is legal reasons for why it has its own voice. It might be too dangerous that people would upload other people's voices and get into lawsuit territory. So they probably sanitize everything by using their Suno voice. And also it might be a way of fingerprinting if you use their service or whatever. But here's what that song is more intended to sound like. Well, I'll play you what was uploaded a little bit. Radically different. So kind of neat what it's pulling from that and then using into these other iterations and things like that with the search terms. But I will say this version I came up with the lyrics, and I think I enjoy it. Anyway, I'll share it with you. This will be something all these things can be refined, but I thought this turned out, I believe this version turned out pretty good.
Mountains
Oh,
are made of molehills.
this one.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall. Fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems, only little problems, always. Little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them. Fall till you do. Fall till you do.
There's room enough to avoid them, and all the little moles that can't even see the little problems they make for you and me, for you and me. Little problems, only little problems, always. Little problems, but not in your way. Little problems, only little problems, always. Little problems, but
I hate it ruins that chord. Otherwise, this would be
on them
almost perfect in my ears. Oh, and as far as personas goes, all right. Before I get done with this is a good example.
Made of molehills, just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall. Fall on your face and all the moles. Oh, little problems.
So
Little problems always.
this is a take on what the band Lush would sound like. So what I would do is certain styles that I wanted to try, persona-wise, like if I were going to do a persona, it's essentially what I'm doing here, which identify a band that you want to try their sound, all right? So like a shoegazy sound. And I've always been partial to Lush. Just ask for a description of them. Took that off and I just apply it to any song I want to hear it. And the vocal performance, along with the instrumentation, and it's those two things working together that's really going to create your persona. But the only way you're really going to get what you want is you need to just get an actual singer and replace what Suno's going to give you otherwise. Here's a version I did. Try to recreate level 42.
made of molehills, just little molehills. Not enough to trip and fall on your face, and all the moles.
So I mean,
Little problems, only little
there's marking isms, but that's not marking.
in your way. Don't trip
And
on
even at that, the
them.
isms aren't very pronounced. However, the next little thing that I tried out was based off of Missing Persons. And when you have such a prominent stylization with Dale Bozio, it's considerably easier to. Oh, and the other thing that might be clouding some of this, although when you put this information in, it seems to override the vocal sample, quote unquote, that had no descriptor in it. I'm just replacing it. So there is a little quality difference that I've noticed based off of what you do. The vocal sample is just a vocal, and I can't. Maybe it's in here somewhere. But anyway, listen to it. The performance is so much of what makes Dale sound like Dale that when you hear this, it sounds very much like Dale, but it also doesn't sound like Dale. It's just, the imitation quotient. And granted, the music surrounding it is trying to reinforce the same sort of idea. I haven't been able to say make this music but singers sing like this and have it really work. Oh, sorry, this is the male version.
Just little molehills, not enough to
Here's the Dale version.
Mountains are made of molehills, just little molehills, not enough to trip and fall on your face, and all the moles. Little problems, only little problems, always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway. Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them, fall to your doom. Fall to your doom. There's room enough to avoid them, and all the little moles that can't even see the little problems they make for you and me, for you and me. Oh, little problems, only little problems, always little problems, but not in your way. Oh, little problems, only little problems, always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
So like I said, it's imitative. Just like if you went to, karaoke and someone was trying to emulate, but it ain't Dale. And likewise, this was some of the stuff I was trying to get of Susie Sue. I'll play a version I thought turned out better. This description is more, I modified it a little bit, but taken more from the example of the creatures.
Mountains are made of molehills. Just little molehills are not enough to trip and fall on your face and all the moss. Little problems, only little problems. Always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway. Mountains were meant to climb, but only if you have to. At least big problems you can see for miles. No need to run to them, fall to your fall to your doom. There's room enough to avoid them and all. The little moles that can't even see. The little problems they make for you and me. For you and me. Little problems, only little problems. Always little problems, but not in your way. Little problems, only little problems. Always little problems, but not in your way. Don't trip on them anyway.
So I will say, I've always been a fan of Susie Sue and the Banshees when I heard about them, kind of after the fact. But I will say, yeah, the performance, they clearly scraped a lot of it because it can identify from the descriptions when I asked what genre of music is the creatures. And it gives a long list, if you just do an internet search. And so that's one way to get terms that you can a more concise sort of musicologist view of things. And it can extract from that without me actually even saying Susie Sue, and it constructs something. It kind of knows what I'm asking it. And I will say that my appreciation for her as a singer has actually grown since playing around with the Susie Sue kind of model. It still doesn't sound like her, but it dawned on me that I never... she was always frustrating because I couldn't tell if she was kind of like the Edge as a guitarist. Is he the best worst guitarist or the worst best guitarist? I don't know. And I always am amused by that thought experiment. And likewise, it's kind of like Susie Sue's got that kind of beautiful ugly thing, where it's like her playing around, sometimes it's like she's not a trained singer, at least it didn't seem like it. But the thing that dawned on me when I started playing around with this is I don't know if her time with Budgie, who's the percussionist for Susie and the Banshees, and definitely is the second part of the Creatures, Indian background, as I believe. Um, it made me start thinking, maybe she was into the Indian microtonal stuff, and I never really gave her credit for it. And maybe I'm giving her too much credit. Like maybe part of what's been going on is just these microtonal things where it's like, yeah, you're a bit pitchy, but maybe it's all intentional. Maybe I really need to appreciate her on a whole different level. But that's what I'm saying. Like Suno, you can complain about it scraping and like it stealing performances. There are aspects of it that, yeah, it's definitely taking. But I mean, you could make the same arguments about like, well, Bach wrote down sheet music, and we're stealing his interpretations, and it's being reinterpreted, and it'll never sound like when it was originally performed because it's got different hands in it, and there's just not the ability to truly recreate anything. So, look, I could go either way with it, but it's still, there's nothing like the original. And like I said, the unexpected side of this is I've grown in appreciation for Susie Sue as a performer by way of experimenting with her. Well, it's not her model because it's not, you know what I'm saying. Basically, trying to reconstruct it. It's like I'm reappreciating everything musicality wise. So I'm going to end it there. I think I've covered by example, which I didn't do in the last video, so this is that plus. So trying to create a reliable, distinct persona for a singer's voice in Suno, maybe it's possible, but I don't know how. Clearly, by way of the cartoon, if you use the cartoon term, it's able to generate styles of voice. Accent, if you do something country western, you will get a twang, but you can't call it up by description. I don't know how to release that kraken. So clearly there's some mechanism that you could get it to happen. I just haven't discovered it. It does seem to be possible, but not by the avenue that's given to users, at least as I understand it now. So, Suno, if you're listening, could we please have some tools where we could direct our singers so we could get things like directed range of singer, style of singer, and accents and that sort of thing? That would be a lot of fun to like play around with that. I would love for things to be more in my control, but as it is, Suno is as much a toy as a tool, and I'll leave it at that. And see you next time.